Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to be back in Adelaide. I think this is the first pro-life event that I spoke at. Great memories. So it's good to be back. And I thought today I would bring a word of encouragement to us all in terms of the value of getting around this cause. And before I do, I want to remind us why we're here. And I want to remind us that there are many terrible things done in the name of abortion and because of abortion. We could speak of late-term abortion, the tearing apart limb by limb of a child that feels pain and is capable of being born. We could speak of gender selection abortion, the correlation between aborted babies and female babies, unwanted girls. We could speak of coercion. Oh, that's better. Thank you. I like to wander. We could speak of coercion. That is the truth that many a woman who is seeking abortion is in fact under some kind of pressure from partner, pressure from family, even threats. We could speak of post-abortion grief, a great undiagnosed malady that exists in our society. Women and sometimes men who live for years, even decades, with the weight of this issue around them. And many have forgotten this now, but we could even speak, going back a little while, of the expose by David Daleiden in the United States of the trade in aborted babies' body parts. These are dark things indeed. These are the truly rotten fruits of abortion. But bad fruits come from bad trees. Abortion lends itself to these kinds of evils because it is itself evil. It is a source of unthinkable evil, and it is a place where evil flourishes because it is itself so deeply wrong. And how I wish, and I know we all share this conviction, I really wish the people of this city of Adelaide and the people of our nation, Australia, understood what a truly evil thing it is, and they understood and knew that they must never have any part in it whatsoever. There are dark roads in life, and this surely is one of the darkest. How I wish that they knew that. Now, I say that abortion is bad, right? And I do mean all abortion, because when I cite those examples, many people will come back and they will say, well, those are really extreme cases, we're not talking about those things, of course. Don't you know that a lot of abortions happen in the first trimester, in the first 12 weeks, and it's simply a right to choose. Well, let's take that up for a minute. 12 weeks, one trimester. But a baby has so far developed as to have fingernails and toenails at 10 weeks. A baby had eyelids at 8 weeks. Eyelids. Her hands and legs were moving. Her diaphragm was so developed that she could get the hiccups. Her heart had 4 chambers at 7 weeks. Brain waves have been recorded at 6 weeks. We're down to half of this 12-week window. Her heart was beating at over 100 beats per minute at 3 weeks. And within just a few days of fertilization, her cells were growing and replicating. Do you know, if we found growing and replicating cells on Mars, we would say, Eureka! That's life, wouldn't we? Well, that's what's happening within days. But let's go back to fertilization itself, the earliest moment. And do you know at that earliest moment, that child's entire DNA library was present and was written. The blueprint of her life, of his life, was written. And by the way, that was once you, and that was once me. And that same DNA that was written at fertilization is still the source code that informs and animates every part of you right now. Folks, that's life. And that is human life. We are human from conception. Now I ask a question. Why was that blueprint written down at fertilization? What was its purpose? The answer is, it was to give you and me and that child all the raw material necessary in order to image God. Isn't that a glorious thing? Isn't that a glorious purpose and a high calling? And that is what is so special about human life. It is not like any other kind of life in this regard. No higher calling exists on any part of creation than that. And who do we think we are to snuff that out? We would have to think that we were God Himself to be worthy of such an act, because that life was meant to image Him. Now, I know some of you are here today and you've come to this place the hard way. You're pro-life against a backdrop of having made bad decisions, of error, of sin, of regret. And I know that because I've spoken at a lot of these events around the country, and people come and they tell me their stories. I know that there's a burden out there on many people in relation to this issue due to the past. And perhaps you hear of that high calling to bear God's image, and a pang of disappointment strikes because you see that you have fallen short. And I want to encourage you today that despite that reality, despite that, this in Christ, you will, and I'm going to say that again, you will fulfill that calling. Because where you failed, Christ has succeeded. And He has everything you need in all of His merits, and He has everything you need to deal with all of your demerits and troubles and problems and sins. And it is never too late for Him to take up your fallen life, to forgive it, to repair it, and to rebuild it such that it will fulfill that purpose. And finally, a word of encouragement. I know that this can be a hard issue, a cause that seems at times thankless and hopeless. But let me remind us that we are dealing with human life, and when we deal with human life, we are dealing with something that interacts with eternity. Because human lives go on forever. They have eternal destinies, and I know that's a great encouragement for some who look forward to meeting those that have been lost through abortion on a coming day. But I want you to see the wider implication that anything you do in relation to the cause of life will not only be for good in this life, but it will echo into eternity. You will not regret one thing done for life for the next 1,000 years and beyond. And you say, well, how do you know that, Martyn? Well, let me quote Jesus Himself in Matthew's Gospel. Speaking of the last day, He says, "The King will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did it for me.'" Isn't that something? Maybe you comment online. Maybe you volunteer. Maybe you give. Maybe you speak up. You're here today. Maybe you're a mother, a father, a foster parent, an adoptive parent, a pro-life testimony. It all matters, you know. The King Himself has said it really, really matters. So be encouraged, and God bless you, and thank you for standing for life today.